Hi everyone, this is Cody, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I fixed a broken shift shaft on a Kawasaki KLT 110. So this is the bike. It doesn't have, this is actually after the fix, but the shift shaft on it, as you can see here, it was pretty bad, and the shaft actually snapped, and the shifter, I think it was like welded together at some point, so it doesn't look too good. So I'm going to be replacing it and showing you how I made like a shaft that will work for it, the actual shaft that goes inside the machine. So the shifter's here. They don't make this anymore either, and this bit here was broken, so what I did is got a shifter off a 90s model Kawasaki four-wheeler, and it's got the little clamp that I need. So here they are here. So here's the broken one. It's been welded and all sorts, and there's the part of the shaft in there. And then here's the one here. It's got nice splines, the good clamp, and it fits the shaft I'll be using. So the shaft I'm going to use for this, at least this end of it, is a 1982 Honda ATC 200 shaft. Now the Honda shafts, they seem to be better. I don't hear much about the spline stripping or the shafts breaking. So hopefully this won't happen again. So on the machine, what I've done is taken off the starter recoil. So then you want to remove this bolt, this one, basically all the bolts holding this on. And then don't forget this guy here, the little red thing, because that's going to be necessary to be removed. So if you happen to strip any bolts along the way, there is a fix for that. Just take your Dremel with the cutting wheel and cut a slit down the bolt, and then make sure your screwdriver fits snugly in there, and then push really hard and turn, and you hopefully should be able to get the bolt out. And then on the other side, do the same, remove all the screws. And these screws are Phillips 3, by the way. I recommend using some high quality bits. And you can either use a screwdriver or an impact driver, whichever works better. I kind of used a combination of both. Probably a screwdriver like a T-handle is your best bet. And now here's all of them removed. Now when you remove this here, there's a little washer that comes out. You want to be careful not to lose it because you're going to need it. And now here's the all the bolts removed, and then there's one up here you don't want to forget. I forgot it and couldn't get it off. So now to get it off, take a rubber mallet or a leather mallet and give it a whack, and it should come off, and then you're left with this. So this is the clutch mechanism, and this is the actual shaft. And then it's got this piece on it which comes on and off. It just slides on, which for now we'll be using to shift the gears while we do this process. So this is also a piece that will fall out when you take off the cover. So just be aware of that. And now here is this clutch plate assembly thing. So you want to take out all these 3 screws, and be careful not to strip these ones because they were in pretty tight. And if you do, it'll be a mess trying to Dremel them out and not get metal shavings in here. I happened to do that, and it wasn't fun covering all that up. And once you get them out, you're left with this bolt here. So this is what we want to remove. So then what I've done here is I put the foot pegs back on, because you have to take them off to get this off. And then I've got a screwdriver going through this flywheel thing, and then going by the foot peg. You probably want something pretty strong. A screwdriver worked for me. And then that allowed me to remove this bolt here that holds that on. And once you do that, you see where the clutch is, and then we still have to get this off. And since there's nothing on the other side we can hold on to, what I ended up doing, now this is the way I did it. It doesn't seem like the best way, so if you know of a better way, feel free to do that. But this is what worked for me. So I used the little piece that was on here and shifted the machine into 5th gear, and then I actually put the clutch back on, held the brakes, and was able to get this off. And by the way, both of these are regular threads, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And once I got that off, I removed the clutch, and along the way trying to get it off, this whole process took months. there's no information on this, so I just kind of had to figure it out along the way. But getting this one off here, it wasn't easy, and I actually sheared off a socket adapter in the process. Now, eventually, I finally got it off, and it just comes off. Now, once you've got the clutch and that gear off, this is the actual shaft, and then you're left with the shifter mechanism here. So just take that out. And once you have it out, it should look something like this. And then what I'm doing now is I've got a Dremel, and then I've lined these up, so this point on both of them is about the same. And then in between the outer portion here and where the seal is on this, I've put a mark, and then done the same here, except I made the mark a little further back to account for the Dremel cutting it and the grinding we'll be doing on it. So I just clamped it in the vise and cut it off. And then with the Kawasaki one, I put some wood blocks there so not to mess up the shaft at all. And then I just used like a belt sander. You can use whatever you've got as long as the surface is flat. So this has got a flat back plate. Although it probably doesn't matter too much because your machine shop will probably take care of this for you. But this is what I did. I got them both nice and flat. This one I didn't cut perfectly, so that's not perfect there, but it turned out just fine. So now I found a machine shop, a local one. You're going to have to find someone who can do this for you unless you have the equipment yourself. So basically what needs to be done is this needs to be shaved off here on each of them. And then a hole drilled through, and then a pin put through both of them. So there's kind of like a U-notch around where the joint is. And then what happens from there is you basically slowly TIG weld it around until you have a bigger shaft at that point, and then you put it on the lathe and then make it all the same diameter as here, and then you end up with a perfect shaft. So I have some footage of them working on it that I'll show now.
Series of tacks on there.
Okay.
I'm going to come in and heat it up, and I'll dab a little bit of this, and then I'll dab it again.
Okay, so after you have the shaft machine, it looks pretty much brand new. You really can't see where the damage was, or really that it was two different shafts. So then this is what you're going to need to put the thing back together. So I've got the gasket kit. You don't really need the whole gasket kit. We really only need 2 gaskets out of it, but it was the cheapest option for me. You probably should get some quality gaskets. I think these are okay quality. I just had to make sure they were pushed in against the edges of everything and not sticking out. Otherwise, I had oil leaks. And then here's the new shifter. It's welded on. Now that's kind of a funny angle. You probably don't want to do that. It's kind of my mistake, the way I cut those off. So now what I actually need to do, so this isn't it a weird angle, is bend this back a little bit so it clears the starter recoil and it doesn't have to be pointed down. And then here's the new shaft, and then here's the shift shaft oil seal, and then a new oil filter. So I installed the new oil seal here. It looks good. And then put the new oil filter in. And then what I could do from there is just push the shaft through and connect all this back up. Now you want to make sure it doesn't damage your new oil seal over here. And you want to also make sure, like if you can avoid it when they machine the shaft, don't have them machine the bit that actually contacts the seal. So the bit that's contacting the seal here is just the original Kawasaki shaft. It's not really messed with. The bit that was messed with is out here. So then basically for this you just reverse your process. You put this on, then put the clutch on, then tighten this, and then tighten this, and then put this new plate on with new screws. And now when you actually put this thing together, there's a pin that goes here as well as one on the other side. You want to make sure they're in, holding your gasket in place, and then you put it together. You kind of tighten up most of your screws most of the way, but don't like snug them yet. And then you kind of push in the gasket, and you want to make sure all the old gasket's off first on both sides, and then push in the gasket so it's not sticking out in any places, and slowly tighten them down evenly around the whole thing. Now this is how the kind of the clutch activator fits on. So this just fits on, pointing right towards the hole there. And then this piece is the piece that fell out when you took it apart. Now it goes on like this, and this isn't just for tightening down the nut on the outside. So when you put the casing on, it'll fit over both of these, I think. And then this is actually an adjustment, which it took me forever to figure this out. So you adjust it so it's tight enough so the clutch actually works, and then you tighten down the nut on top of it. So you may have to mess with that till you get it right. And then here's after I put it all back together, this side. So that just needs to be filled up with oil, don't forget that. And then I put this side back on, put this little guy back on, and the starter recoil's back on. Now you just have to cover this bit up here. And then that's pretty much it. So you need to put the actual shifter on, and let's see how it works. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I looked on YouTube, I couldn't find any sort of videos or information on that, and there was very little information online, and the manuals are pretty hard to come by now, so I thought this would be helpful for anyone trying to do this. So if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you all in the next video.